Welcome to the BPM360 Podcast. I'm Russell.
And I'm Caspar. And together we will help you navigate the treacherous waters of the BPM adoption journey. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the BPM360 Podcast. My name is Caspar, your host, and with me is, as usual and always, Russell, my friend and co-host. Russell, how are you, and where does this podcast find you today?
Hello, Caspar. Yeah, great to be together with you recording. It's Friday. I'm at home. Always good. It stopped raining. It got really cold.
Yeah, true.
And so if I have the alternative between a lot of rain and freezing cold, I would always prefer the freezing cold. The combination of freezing cold and rain, that's okay. That's the overkill. But currently in Germany, things have brightened up. And I've been quite busy. Don't know if you recalled, we had Sven Schnegelberger on our show a couple of weeks back. And I also last week had a keynote on process centricity around implementing agentic AI. And it was like a virtual event over a week with a lot of keynotes and also a podium discussion on how AI will impact the consulting business, specifically the process management consulting business. It was quite cool because there's a professor there as well talking, about the young generation of upcoming students and what we can expect on the job market. And beyond that, I think there's a lot of the year-end rally, with projects and budgets that need to be spent and budgets that are being projected for the next year. But overall, I'm super optimistic. I also read that there's been some open PR newsletters that say that they see that the BPM market will be growing strong in the next years. And I think that goes hand in hand with what we've talked about on the investments of ServiceNow and SAP in the tools, really promoting and backing up the story. Because, like talking to Mirko, it's all about the people, but it always helps if there is a technology and there's the big players actually said, yes, this is really something. And we also see a business around the software, the platforms. And it's not just something like a philosophy, but there's a real hands-on business behind it. So all in all, I would say it's great. And I'm really looking forward to the episode today because we have a guest.
We do have a guest. We have a guest called Jesper Blomster. Jesper, first and foremost, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And letting me be a part of this podcast. I'm all good. Here in Sweden, it doesn't rain, but it's snowy. So it's
Even
quite
better.
winter wonderland. It looks amazing out there.
I envy you. Yeah, we have that twice a year for half a day. We wake up in the morning, we get all excited, and then by midday we have slush.
Well, the problem is that we have in the Netherlands, we have that too, and that typically allows for the biggest traffic jams in the year because we're not used to driving in snow anyway. But anyway, so absolutely wonderful to have you on the show, Jesper. We met at an event earlier on a couple of months ago, I would say. I think it was around June in London from the top of my heart. I heard you give a presentation on very interesting topics. And I thought we need to have you on the show. And here we are after a bit of planning and all of that. So we're very looking forward to it. And the first thing I would like our readers to understand is, who are you and how the hell did you get into the process management universe?
That is a very good question. Who am I? I am a guy that is working in Sweden for one of the biggest companies here. Former employed in one of the biggest bank in Sweden, insurance companies as well, are doing my 9 years within the digitalization space. But what has been very clearly throughout my career is literally hate is a big word, but if I would use it somewhere, it's about manual processes and administration. So
we share that.
Sorry?
We share that feeling.
Yeah, so that's where I am now. I'm really pushing the boundaries of what we can do to improve our business, our operations by the help of technology without even talking about technology. I'm now running major projects within the mainly process intelligence space, focusing on how we can optimize our cash flow, focusing on how we can improve the operations on an everyday basis for our people in the organization, and really trying to target that from all levels, both strategical, tactical, and operational.
Very good.
But that's not so much about who I am.
No. I wasn't ready yet, so go on.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah,
No
I'm a
worries.
father of 4. If I start there,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
having a busy schedule. I don't have a cool degree on a master's or something like that. Nothing. So that's that describes me more than I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know how deep I should go, but that
Oh.
describes me pretty well.
Come on, give us a deep dive. Come on, let's go. Let's
Yeah,
go deep.
okay. No, I will not continue going down that road. But if I say like this, I'm really a person that tries to do things myself. I've done that my whole life. My father taught me early on that there is nothing called impossible. Whenever I ask him about something, it doesn't depend what it is. It's independent. He always say, yeah, it's a solution for that. You can solve it by doing this way, or we can look into it. Let's solve it all together. And that has really fixed my mind into the way I think and how I see problems. I never see problems. And I mean, when I say that I have 4 kids, people are like, oh my God, I would die if I have 4 kids. For me, it's just my new normal. And I
Yeah.
adapt to it and I make the best of it.
Yeah.
And the way I've been taught is that there is nothing called impossible, I would say. So that's really how I drive my business and the way I operate. And the same thing comes back to education. No, I don't have a formal education, but I have a really good, I don't know what you say, experience education,
Oh, yeah.
which has been formed throughout a career that has been throughout sales and also advisory, but also throughout business development into how you develop your own robots and manage your processes. And then now we're more to change management of how we operate in a big corporation.
Cool. So that's an interesting one. And by the way, I got 3 kids, so I kind of understand where you're going through. It is a lot, but it's also very rewarding. The one thing I like to respond to real quickly is, I mean, what I always learned is that the word impossible basically is just not a way of writing I'm possible. So I mean, it's just an apostrophe and a
Oh, I
space that
love
you need
that.
to add. Yeah. Just add a space and add an apostrophe and you got I'm possible. And that's what it is ultimately. I mean, the limits are imposed by yourself and nothing else. So very good. Oh, this turns into a psychology episode, Russell. So it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I've
we'll
only
see.
got one. I've only got one child. In Germany, you say ein Kind is kein Kind. So you say one child is no child. Yeah. So that's it. They say it's with 2 and 3 and 4. That's when things start. And definitely, I come from a family of 4 kids, and so I know from the other side, like what it's like with a family, and coming back to the I'm possible. Actually, it reminds me more that when the kids get into a teenage age, that they feel ashamed for you. So I hear more often, you're impossible.
Yeah.
In the German, that du bist unmöglich. So it's kind of like, oh, Dad, don't do that, please. No,
Yeah.
So it's more the I'm impossible.
So how old are they, Jesper? Just generally speaking, are they still under 10 or are they in their teens?
No, it's a mix. Yeah, they are
It's a
between
mix.
17 and 8. So it's
Oh God,
it's
yes.
a mixture.
That's a spread.
That's a spread. Yeah. I got 12 to 17, so I got them all teens right now. I recognize that, Russell, anyway. And just to make a little bit the bridge to our normal topic.
Sorry for that.
No, absolutely fine. Because very often when I have, for instance, roundtable events, or I have customer sessions, it very often turns out to be like a therapeutic session where people simply need to let go of some frustration. And so psychology is something that's really close to process management.
But honestly, it's quite true, because I was attending to an event yesterday, and It was a guy that came up to me after I had my presentation. He said, like, Jesper, really good at describing complex stuff in a very complex way. So what he was trying to say was more or less putting in some kudos into the ability to talk about these things. Like, how can you take a very complex subject, make it to something that everyone understand, but also putting it to that you speak the language of the person that you meet, and that is exactly how you can drive change. And it's also come back to exactly what you just said, like,
Yeah.
how do you make the people that you meet on an everyday basis becoming someone that is helping you drive your agenda forward?
Yeah.
And I think that really fits in well, because I think that's a lot of the time that's what process is about. You know, it's making people understand quite a complex or abstract matter. You know, how does what I do impact the bigger success of a company even? And it also, I think it ties in nice. You just said something like driving digitalization and talking to the people, but not about digitalization, in order to still get digitalization moved forward. So it's actually, some people, you need to talk all about IT and digitalization, and they need to understand the business side. And a lot of the times when you're talking about process excellence and the initiatives you want to drive, it's the digitalization that will enable this let's say this excellence or this optimization. But when you're talking about it, you have to avoid that at all costs, or else the shutters go down. And I think that's something that's really what process management is about. Building these bridges and making complex things explainable and understandable for very different peer groups. That's the point as well.
And to be honest, I mean, I've been in this space for around 10 years, as I said, and when we started back then, we only focused on what are the technologies that we have in front of us, how can we make people use them, and what are the challenges we can address. We never really looked into it from the people perspective. We were only talking about the technology that we had. Where is my nails to my hammer, so to say? Yeah, that was pretty much what we did, and I bet that everyone that is listening to this and that you guys as well recognize that. And then we realized we have to change this approach. It took some years and all the experience, and we had different eras of how we address problems, but it always came from a technology perspective or a data aspect or a strategy aspect, but we never talked about the people, the processes, the operational issues. And that's where I find the beauty in business process management and the way to really address the right issues. Because if you find that balance between targeting an operational challenge and you have the right people with you, it becomes their problem. And then by that, you also build accountability and a willingness to be a part of that journey. Meaning that without even speaking about technology and talking about all the data that we need to fix, they are already with you. And then you have probably done 75% of the project. Then you also, of course, have to implement it, but that's not the hard part. The technology is not the hard part. The people are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I took away as well, as you just gave your introduction, that you have been involved in bigger companies from a Swedish perspective, of course. No, only joking. So big corporate organizations. So what is your take on now what you said about, say, this ownership topic? I mean, that's something Caspar and I have talked about so much, that you need a sponsor, but most of all, the biggest challenge is getting this ownership in business, that they say, we're with you. We want this initiative. We want to support you here. But in a big organization, things get messy, because then, in a smaller company, you have your one-on-one peers in the project. But then what we see as well, that there's sometimes great teams, great ambition, and it gets diluted out when you start rolling out concepts, when you start rolling out systems and processes. It's like maintaining that momentum across a big organization. What's your take on that, on how do you see this as well? Do you perceive this as well? And what are your, say, what is your experience here, and what things would you say can you do to keep the momentum across such a big organization?
I would say it's of course, keep your eyes on the prize. So what is the on challenge, what is our burning platform? What are the things that we as a company and a team are trying to achieve? What do we want to address? What is our North Star? Like, where are we going with this in 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is? But really having that as a common goal, I think, is the most important key. Then we are on a very, very fluffy level, on a strategic level that not everyone understand, right? But still have that somewhere with you is the key for me, because about talking about something so big, so great, so long time ahead, you have at least something you can start to dream about. Okay, if I want to get there, what do I have to do? But what I do is also having a lot of lunches. I meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of different guys across the company or the companies to make friends. Friends might be a bit hard, but you get the point. It's more or less to find the right peers to interact to. And I do that on all levels. So I'm trying to find the right executives to work with. I'm trying to find the right operational managers, and I try to find operations people that is really doing the hard work. And it's what I'm trying to do is to find a way to target that North Star throughout all of these different levels. I don't talk about technology and BPM or something. I do not do that. I talk about, okay, what is your challenge? How can I help you to address a certain challenge? How can I help you to look good? How can I make you the person that actually contributes to the North Star? And then I do that. I take that from the executive part and then jump down to the tactical part. Okay, which are the KPIs that really affects this? How can we find the challenges that you have as a manager? What are the things that keeps you up at night, or what is the things that your teams are struggling with? And then jumping into the teams level and see, okay, but what are the things in here that you don't like to do? What are the things that makes you don't really enjoy your job? So then I go really from the hate side or the love side. It depends on how you see it. But me, more or less, like taking it to a level of, well, where what are the things that really doesn't contribute to something fun to do? So I'm trying to take it from that perspective, and when I do that, it's so much easier to get the right ownership of a problem. And instead of jumping into a conversation and say, yeah, where can I automatize and get rid of people? Because that is just stupid to do. Because if you do that, you will get enemies the first thing you do. But then if you then turn around and talk about what are the things that we can do so you look good, that you can get a much better KPI and you have a much fun, more workplace, then you have built accountability and ownership and willingness to contribute. So that is how I try to operate in pretty much everything I'm doing.
So that's interesting, because I heard at least two things already that I always preach as well. One is to make sure that you align your strategic initiatives nicely with your operating model, with your process landscape, with your work, your processes, your work instructions, all the way down to the shop floor. I mean, that alignment is really critical. And the other thing that I really like what you just mentioned is basically what you're saying is you need to answer the what's in it for me question from their perspective.
Yes.
And that goes way beyond technology. That's just, again, coming back to human psychology. People typically change at the moment that they see that there's benefit for them, or that they think that there is no other choice in life than to change. And you don't want that last second type of change to happen in your organization. You want people to genuinely believe that they will change because they think it's better for them to do that. And by being it better for them, it will be better for the common goal of the company or the organization. So that's an interesting one. The question that I would have for you is, and we talked about that earlier on a little bit, you mentioned it, you spend a lot of time on the digitalization part. How do you connect the fact that you're making everything digital with the fact that people still need to feel connected to it? Because very often, if something is digitalized, people feel disconnected.
I would not say digitalized. I would say augmented, empowered.
Okay.
So more or less keeping the human in the loop, making them focus on the relationship, making sure that they focus on the stuff that we as humans are much better than the computer is, or Yeah, and then also letting the computer do the hard lifting or the heavy lifting. For example, crunch data, gather material from the web, from what is happening out in the world right now, crunching a lot of information so we as a human can interact upon that information, or keeping the relationships that we feel is important. So it's that might have been a weird answer, but I think that you get the point. My whole thinking is more or less, what can I do to help them to really contribute to something that they feel is valuable, and turning that administrative work, manual work, into something that actually matters and can contribute to the higher targets. That's more of how I try to turn it around. So of course it's often people have an equal sign between automation and digitalization. I do not have that. I believe that digitalization is just a word. It's a word talking about technology, data, people, process, all together with strategy, with a purpose. But it's just a word. And automation is something else. And I do not see that by just making things digitalized, they are being laid off. That's not how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, totally agree with that. I mean, very often when you talk about automation, it very often goes hand in hand with the fact that it either becomes digital or you make it more automated. But you need to optimize the process first before you automate it anyway, because otherwise you're just automating a crappy process, which I think nobody ever.
I've done that.
Yeah,
it's not good.
So, Caspar, are you talking about RPA?
Yeah, but exactly. But the funny part is, we have where I've driven many automation projects, a lot of them. And I realized that by focusing on 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, of course, you can add that up to a great number and it looks good. Yeah, you have released a few FTEs. But what is the actual value? I wouldn't say that releasing those FTEs, which we didn't even do, was a benefit. Okay, we learned, fine. But when I'm trying now more or less to focus on the higher targets, cash conversion cycle, how can we contribute to the really challenging things for the company? That is really where we find the gold. In other words, by increasing the cash conversion cycle and the numbers in it, either by improving DPO or lowering DIO, or in lowering DSO, the equal deep FTEs that we were talking about with RPA is like nothing. So by affecting the cash conversion cycle, you have a much bigger effect on the top line and the bottom line, and you can also make sure, or I promise you, that the people above in the executive board would love that, rather than talking about how you laid off of certain FTEs.
Absolutely.
It's a total different game. And by doing so, it's so much easier as well to put that problem into all of these different levels. So I think that is really the biggest learning I've had over the last 2 years, where we really tried more or less to focus on that entirely, to see how we can contribute to the bottom line and top line of the company, rather than talking about where we find 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there.
Yeah, so that definitely fits in the picture of, first of all, like the top down. What are they really interested in? The sponsors, thinking end to end. So really thinking across all functions and not just going down to one problem area, but looking at the bigger picture, how that all works together. And then on a process level, really taking the stakeholders, serious on how they can get them on board. So it's more than just the IT aspect of it. It's the whole system you have to rethink and put under scrutiny to think what are the influencing factors. I really like that. Actually, it's just going on. Yes, but you talking about, say, the way you really break down this strategy down to a level that you're talking to so many different peers. It really did remind me of we had a guest, Gary Cox, on the show, and he was doing like process optimization and Lean Six Sigma projects for on a big scale for the Post, the Canadian Post, which is a very big company, of course, or organization. And he as well was like all the topic of process management. He started off as a postman at Canadian Post. And then, for education and self-learning and whatever, he over decades, he really grew up to be the master black belt at the Post, at really understanding all processes. And when we talked to him, it was also very similar to the way your approach. He said, you need to talk with the people. You have to say, what's your pain? How are you doing today? Why aren't you feeling good? What can we do to make you feel better?
Yes.
And that's why, and I was going, wow, this is it. You know what I mean? This is like, get to the people, talk to them about, what they're doing, and they know their processes, and they typically know, if they were given the space, how they could do things better. Yeah, it's not that they per se do things bad. A lot of the times it's constraints that they're put into a box, and they don't even have the freedom to speak up and get their innovation, their creativity to work, and to help and become. And if you hear and listen to them more than speaking to them, they're on board. And they become an own productive
what you're saying
factor.
is that they are becoming the heroes.
Yeah. Make them shine. Yeah.
Exactly. Make them shine and let them, talk to the therapist. Or what did you say, Caspar?
yeah. It's a therapeutic. I mean, BPM, for all that matters, is a field of work which takes place in the shadow, I would say. It's never on the forefront. It's always behind the scenes, connecting A to B to C, hoping that it will benefit the entire company, and then you allow the people in A, B, and C to take the credit for it. And that's what keeps people going. There's an innate belief within most process management people that I know and I've met, that they simply want to make things better, but they don't need to be in the limelight for it, or in the spotlight. Actually,
do you think that is a skill that you can learn in a university, or do you have to learn it the hard way, doing it yourself?
No. That's a character trait that you either have or you develop it over time. I don't think that's something that you can learn at a university. The only thing you learn really are the frameworks and how to think about it. So to give you a bit of let's say a handle on things. But to be very honest, I mean, BPM is not a complex technical subject. We can make it very complex if you start to talk about conventions and methods. And I mean, I'm going to say very bluntly, and I'm going to offend a lot of people now, but who cares about that? It's about what people do with it on the shop floor, and how does it impact your bottom line as a company. That's what it boils down to, and that's still human behavior, I would say.
Yeah, and one thing, I mean, yes, but that's why talking about what can you learn, ultimately there has to be a lot of empathy, I think. So let's get into I'm going to turn this around. So Jesper, what are the superpowers that you have? What are the BPM superpowers that you have? Yeah.
There we go. So, now we're getting to it.
And I guess you're not going to say, oh, I know the common book of knowledge from BPMN off by heart.
No, I haven't even read it. I don't know what it is.
Oh my God.
That's such a revelation.
Me neither. Yeah, such a revelation. You want to go to...
No, but I think it's I wouldn't say like superpower, that might be too much, but what I am really good at is to take something that I feel is complex and trying to break that down so I can explain it to my kids. I'm trying to do that in many things. So my son, he's 15 years old, and we were talking about, but Dad, what do you do? Like, you have a strange job. You meet a lot of people, you're talking on stages sometimes, you are stressed, you're working nights sometimes, but you also seem to have a lot of energy. So what I'm really good at is trying to being able to take something complex and put that into another context, and being that translator between the different types of people. So that is something I am good at, and that is something I really tries to evolve all the time. But I'm also quite unafraid, or what should I say? I dare to try, if I put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of getting a no. I don't know if that is not me listening, but when I get the no, I'm also thinking of how can I turn this to a yes.
Well, that's a bit like what your father then taught you with nothing is impossible. And a lot of people say no because they're afraid of loss of face, or they don't believe it's possible, or it's a lot of effort. So I think definitely with that, being able to explain things and translate them, I think there is a lot of empathy you have to bring for the job to be able to listen and really get what they're on about, or why they have fear, or why they, are frustrated. And the other thing, curiosity. I think that, being curious about, even being interested, authentically interested in, how do you do your job, and how do you do, how do you do it, and how do you manage? And these are things, coming back to your question, that's something the university can't explicitly train. But I hope that they can facilitate an environment where it's rewarded to say no, where it's rewarded to feel, and maybe also the school, that it's not just hard facts, that there's space to listen, to feel, to be curious, do things wrong, take risks. That's the environment that I think we need to have for our kids, and to grow up. And it's more around that age that I think that you can lay the fundament for actually having, this open-minded, curious, ambitious as well. It's not.
But it's also there's also another part here. It's also another part which I think is important, and that is like when. And I have no problem with universities and academia, not at all. Don't take it like that. What I'm really see is, for example, that I would love to, that I would have learned when I was in that age, was more or less to become more structured. How can I improve my business? How can I run a project? How can I put myself into a complex problem, find your own solution, explore? And that was not something I taught in school. Not at all.
Nope.
What I mean is, they are in there, this is the box. You either fit in the box or you don't. But you're never taught of how you can expand that box, if I put it that way. And that is something I have tried to find my identity at work, probably. And where I am now, I'm really thriving because I am able to explore. I am able to push boundaries. I am not getting no's, and of course I get no's, but they're often turned to yes. Other companies, other places, other companies I've been in touch with, if you get a no, you get a no, and that won't change. And then where I am now, that's not the case.
Oh, now we're touching on a real. So how would you say? Do you think that maybe Scandinavia has a general company culture that fosters this disrespectful behavior of you?
Disrespectful behavior, yeah.
No, again, Russell, challenging behavior.
No, but that's actually very interesting, and I think that it's. I mean, I work in a very international environment, and I meet people from different parts of the world. And yes, we from the Nordics might be a different kind of personality, having a different type of personality than the others, but it's that mixture that you still need to have. You need to have the one that is really structured and maybe are the naysayers, but you also need to have the ones that is pushing the boundaries. Actually, I don't really know what is the reason, but what is your view? I mean, you are seeing us from another type of perspective. You are grown up in different parts of Europe. How do you see the Nordic people? Why are we like we are?
You want to start, Russell? I'll add later.
Well, I mean, from what let's start with some things that I think it's astonishing, and I really think it's fantastic that you say, you haven't got a university degree, but you're really managing substantial strategic initiatives in a large corporation. I believe there's a lot of countries / enterprises where that wouldn't happen. Period. Yeah. Just for the sake of having a piece of paper. I mean, in Germany, I knew I had to have a piece of paper, or else my name would be, especially not being German and having a not German sounding name, not having a German family because I, moved here with my parents without a piece of paper. I knew even going to school says that's not going to happen. That's my perspective there. And I still don't see any real big change over the last, oh my God, maybe 30 years since I finished school, or 40 years, whatever. Let's not talk about that. But and has there been a fundamental change in that? No. Maybe around IT programming. There was a phase where now they realize formal education on programming, no, you need to have smart people, best game, people that have been hacking around. So there's some areas it's been softened up, but ultimately, I think Germany is still quite hierarchical and quite certificate naysayer driven. I'll get bashed for this, seriously, but that's
not by me.
Yeah,
yeah, but
exactly.
I mean, just very simple. I mean, I'm in the middle, of course, here because I'm Dutch. I live in the Netherlands. We have a reputation for being direct and blunt. Well, actually, we're direct. Other cultures just perceive that as being blunt, but that's something different. I think from a cultural perspective, Jesper, the Dutch are closer to the Nordics than they probably would be to Germany. We have a very low power distance, as they call it. So typically, when I worked in the manufacturing industry, large company, you would address the CEO with his first name, no problem. So I love being in the Nordics. I love the fact that the Danish can be very direct. The Swedes typically very nice, direct if they need to be. I won't talk about the Finnish people because I can't read them at all. I like them very much, but I can't read them. It's impossible. But yeah, I think from that perspective, I think the Nordics provide a much more, for the lack of a better word, a much safer place to develop yourself if you have a different opinion. And that is something that's, for instance, in France or in Germany, much more difficult to do.
But is that due to that we are, in generally speaking, I think that we are consensus driven. Okay.
Yeah.
Meaning that when we take a decision, we take a democratic decision where we are trying to convince people, and there's a lot of convincing going on around the meetings, and many people have one voice, and everyone is equal in that session to say yes or no. Yeah. And I guess that comes back to trying to turn a subject around to make everyone understand it. How can I get them on my side? But it also pushes the thought process to new solutions. So maybe that is the reason, Russell. I don't know, but it might be one of the reasons why we are why we Nordics are the best people in the world. No, I'm kidding. But I don't know. It might come back to that we are quite young, are consensus driven.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because the consensus driven, if there is room for debate, and there is a space to be heard, then independent from, let's say, your status, your rank, or your certificate, if you can make a point, and that's something, let's talk about, coming back to the superpowers, if you are able to resonate in a way that people get, I get it, that's why he wants to do the initiative. And you, as you said, you're doing your stakeholder management, you're talking to a lot of different people. It's always the best thing when 3 people meet, you're not in the room, and they all talk about the initiative that they want to support because you've talked to them in their different levels. And then all of a sudden it just goes click. That's the dynamics that you need also in diplomacy. And I think then that having the space from a culture, as you said, consensus-based, is the first thing is not to say no directly, but to listen first, and then look around you and say, what do the other people say? And then there's this vibe of, is it good or not?
And the thing is,
like a bit of swarm intelligence.
That drive improvement. I mean, the people saying no will challenge you to take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
So that is what I meant by everyone having their own voice. They can also express their, no, I don't trust in this due to this X, Y, Z. Yeah. And that will enhance you to really rethink the way you operate and the way you process this problem. Yeah. So that's where I am.
And the no-sayer will then also see, there's a majority saying yes, and he will then commit. Yes. And that is one big thing around company culture, I think, is that you can say no, But but you can't just kind of like push back and say, no. I said, no, I'm never going to do this. But consensus means a lot of the times that sometimes you don't agree, you get slightly convinced, but you see the majority is there, and then you commit. And then it's not that maybe it hurts you, but sometimes change is there that hurts you most, and everybody else is like, yeah, for me, it's super fine. I'm the one that will have the biggest pain. But the commit to say, but we have consensus, we want to go there. And then walking along and carrying that burden, that's the significant difference to having a basisdemokratische discussion debate without it sometimes saying, okay, as the Saudis say, khalas, and then, let's move forward. Yeah. And then everybody kind of commits and moves forward. So that's where sometimes there's a lot of discussion and everybody say no and yes, and there's a lot of debate, but there's not this then kind of like this getting in line and then moving forward. That's really important, I think, for organizations to get into that flow. And one anecdote I always like telling, that was a friend of mine. He was working for an advertising agency, and he was then working in New York. And they came together with the CEO for this new campaign they were going to push out to the customer. And he gathered everybody in. He says, I want to present you this new campaign we're going to do with this customer. It's our new big deal. And he said, and just tell me what you think about this. Give us everything you have. I really want to be sure that this is the thing. They showed the campaign, and everybody's there clapping and awesome. And this German said, yeah, but. And he said something we said, it just questioned something about that maybe, the key message will be misunderstood by whatever, some kind of like peer group. And everybody just fell silent because he thought, hey, we're having a debate, discussing if there's anything, what we think. And so that was not the attention at all. The CEO just wanted everybody to clap and say awesome, and then shoot it out. The guy was fired. He flew back home. He said, never again. So misunderstanding. Oh, say freely what you want. They said, no. You were allowed to say yes and awesome. Other than that, get in the plane, fly back home.
But Russell, that means that the room for debate, which I really like, should be called, you need to have a sincere room for debate.
Totally.
Because in New York and in American culture, and I'm going to get shot for this anyway, but there is on paper room for debate. But I would say in Western Europe in general, but in the Nordic specifically, and also in the Netherlands, there is a sincere room for debate, and that propels the quality of the outcome.
Yes.
To a higher degree. Now. I'm the timekeeper, so I need to keep a bit of time. There's one last topic that I would like to bring forward, Jesper, really quickly before we run out of time, is that you've also started an initiative called Automate, with all caps. I attended once actually because I could make it, and I'm very sorry if I couldn't make it the other ones, but it's a community-driven initiative. Could you elaborate a little bit on what it is and why did you start that?
So me, together with many of my peers that is working in other companies, other industries, maybe in academia or in the corporate world or in the public sector world, we all face the similar challenges. We all face people. We all face, how do we make adoption, or do we create adoption? So what we did was more or less seeing that we do face these challenges, and how can we address them all together? How can we learn from one another? So the Automate network is a totally open and free network, totally independent network, in which we blend people from the corporate world, the public service, and academia all together to really have a think tank or a session on different topics that is relevant for us all. For example, how do you make AI becoming a part of your core of your company? How do you go from pilot to real projects? Some of those topics we have, but also about how do you convince your management to focus on these topics even further? How can you really really address it from all the levels that I've already been talking about here, from strategic, tactical, and operational standpoint as well. So in this fora, we really have the ambition to grow together. That is more or less the word we're trying to get out. As of now, it's as I said, an open network, and we intend to keep it that way, totally independent. We'll need to have some sponsors, of course, to make it fly or make it run. But yeah, it's a network connected to digitalization and how you elevate your game.
And is it specific to the Nordics, or is it really open from that particular sense?
No, it's actually totally global. We mainly have participants from Nordic companies, but we have around, I think it's around 70 companies now in that. But it's definitely global.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's totally open, in which anyone can attend to.
Yeah. Russell, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. I joined one session, and it was really good. So cool. But I mean, community, and that's where I think I'm going with this. We need to expand that bubble a little bit. I mean, we call it business process management or process intelligence, but it all comes down to connecting people and making sure that they understand what their contribution is in the bigger picture of an organization.
But isn't that all it comes down to as well? Like, how do you become so T-shaped that you understand a lot of part of the company while you can explain and then really dig down into questions that you burn for or that you want to talk about? So that's how I see it as well. It's a way for me to expand my knowledge about what is happening in the digitalization space. Exactly. It's a way for me to grow my knowledge about challenges in other companies, but also to confirm that I have the right knowledge, or what is the gaps in my knowledge I need to enhance.
Yeah.
So that is really how I see it, why I am a part of it.
And that's really interesting, because if I go back to the very start of the episode where you say I need to be able to take a complex, and you're capable of taking a complex topic and breaking it down into something more simple. I think it was Richard Feynman, the physicist, who once said, if I can't explain it to a kid, I don't understand it well enough yet. And I think Einstein said sort of along the same lines. And I think that's also, if I hear you, part of that automate also probably is trying to fill in the gaps to say, how can I better decomplex I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you really want to do process management properly on an organizational scale, it is a complex topic. It's not rocket science, though. It's just because it involves humans that makes it complex. Yeah. So I really like that approach from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and what we have in that network is we have a mixture of scientists coming from one of the biggest, one of the highest top-ranked universities in Sweden. They are there because they are interested to really get the view on these topics from a wide audience. Yeah, you have experienced like company leaders in the network, but you also have the people that is just trying to learn. So it's really this mixture of all the different types of people, and that is how I see it. I don't care because it doesn't have to be excluded for only leaders. It has to be like the big brain where everyone really wants to contribute to grow. Yeah, that's the thought.
That's a perfect message to end this podcast with today. Unless, Russell, you have a very burning question for Jesper.
No, I just wanted to confirm I like the idea that it's been open. Because I was going to ask this, sometimes groups where you said only leaders are in there, no consultants, only customers. But if it's like an open platform and in debate and in consensus, what one can exchange, then everybody can will bring something in and take something out of it. So I really appreciate that. That's fantastic.
Very good. Well, it was a pleasure, Jesper. We've come to the end of this episode. I'm sure that we could have kept talking for another couple of hours, and we might want to do that, but then I want to do it somewhere where we can drink something at a bar or so. That's usually even better than sitting at home behind the microphone. We really appreciated and enjoyed it. I would wish you a lot of success in your career. And of course, we'll meet each other in the Automate community. And to our listeners, I would say thank you for sticking with us. See you next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.